This is Coffee with God, and I am Father Jose. Let us begin this day with the Word of God and a short reflection.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 5, verses 21 to 43. The passage is taken from the Message version of the Bible. After Jesus crossed over by boat, a large crowd met him at the seaside. One of the meeting place leaders, named Jairus, came. When he saw Jesus, he fell to his knees, beside himself, as he begged, "My dear daughter is at death's door. Come and lay hands on her, so she will get well and live." Jesus went with him, the whole crowd tagging along, pushing and jostling him. A woman who had suffered a condition of hemorrhaging for 12 years. A long succession of physicians had treated her, and treated her badly, taking all her money and leaving her worse off than before, had heard about Jesus. She slipped in from behind and touched his robe. She was thinking to herself, "If I put a finger on his robe, I can get well." The moment she did it, the flow of blood dried up. She could feel the change and knew her plague was over and done with. At the same moment, Jesus felt energy discharging from him. He turned around to the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said, "What are you talking about? With this crowd pushing and jostling you, you're asking, 'Who touched me?' Dozens have touched you." But he went on asking, looking around to see who had done it. The woman, knowing what had happened, knowing she was the one, stepped up in fear and trembling, knelt before him, and gave him the whole story. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, you took a risk of faith, and now you're healed and whole. Live well, live blessed. Be healed of your plague." While he was still talking, some people came from the leader's house and told him, "Your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore?" Jesus overheard what they were talking about and said to the leader, "Don't listen to them, just trust me." He permitted no one to go in with him except Peter, James, and John. They entered the leader's house and pushed their way through the gossips, looking for a story, and neighbors, bringing in casseroles. Jesus was abrupt. "Why all this busybody grief and gossip? This child isn't dead, she's sleeping." Provoked to sarcasm, they told him he didn't know what he was talking about. But when he had sent them all out, he took the child's father and mother, along with his companions, and entered the child's room. He clasped the girl's hand and said, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, get up." At that, she was up and walking around. This girl was 12 years of age. They, of course, were all beside themselves with joy. He gave them strict orders that no one was to know what had taken place in that room. Then he said, "Give her something to eat."
Reflections on the Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 5, verses 21 to 43. John Bosco was born in 1815 in the northern Italy. As a boy, John dreamed that he stood in a crowd of children who were fighting and cussing, and he was failing to quiet them. A mysterious lady appeared and told him, "You will have to win these friends of yours not with blows, but with gentleness and kindness. Take your shepherd's staff and lead them to pasture." As he matured, he chose to become a priest to minister to the poor and the neglected boys who lived in Turin, Italy. He opened several centers where young people could come to play and pray. He founded a community of priests to assist in his work with children. He named it Salesians after his favorite saint, Saint Francis de Sales, and founded another order for women to work with girls, and called them the Daughters of Our Lady, Help of Christians. The Salesian family also includes a community of brothers. In today's Gospel, we find Jesus in the midst of the crowd. The word crowd is used 5 times in this passage. Jesus was constantly among the people. While in their midst, Jesus asks, "Who touched me?" Jesus not only understands the crowd but also feels the crowd. He hears the heartbeats of each one. He cares for each one who stretches out to touch him, always. A similar situation happens when the ruler of the synagogue approaches Jesus to tell him about his gravely ill little daughter, and he leaves everything else to attend to this one. He is accessible to the great and to the small. What about these two women in the gospel passage today? The first one has had a blood loss for 12 years. According to the law of Moses, the flow of blood makes a person impure. She cannot generate life. The second woman, the young daughter of Jairus, is of marriageable age of 12, but in her, life is interrupted. She is dead. The number 12 in these two instances is not just a coincidence. It refers to the 12 tribes, the whole of Israel. And these women represent Israel. Israel, although the bride of the Lord, abandoned her husband and became impure. She cannot generate life. This woman comes across Jesus, believes in him, and says, "If I succeed even to touch his mantle, I will be saved." Only when she finds Christ and touches him, Israel falls into the hands of her husband, and she is made well, she is made pure, and she is saved. In the Eucharist, we have the opportunity to touch him. In the lives of all the people around us, we have the chance to touch the image of God. To be saved, all we need to do is touch him in the sacraments, in the Word of God, and in the lives of people around us.